What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Well, today's video, I'm going to go over a tech tip that I've got for you on if you have a brand new gas tank. It's one of those that you want to pressure test your gas tank before you actually go off and spend the money on a paint job or get it sealed or even kind of do any small modifications, because if you're doing small modifications, they can kind of fix any kind of leaks you may have then, and then go and spend the money on a paint job or getting it sealed. It's one of those that air is actually going to be lighter than gasoline, so if you pressure test it with air, you know that if it's holding air or if you don't have any leaks on your seams where the welds are, then you know that you can hold gasoline without any problems. After I kind of show you this, I'll kind of give you a little update on the Sportster, but first let me show you kind of what I'm doing to pressure test my gas tank. Alright, so this is kind of what I've got. I've got some Simply Green right here, and I've got this little contraption that I'm going to kind of go over here in just a few minutes. And of course you got the gas tank. This right here is going to be a plug that comes with the gas tank. It's supposed to be to where you can, pressurize the gas tank and it not leak, but I can't get this side to seal enough with this in there, and the actual gas cap over here is going to be vented. This is a normal thread right on this side, and it's one of those I never could find a normal thread non-vented gas cap. So it's one of those that this is kind of the best I've got, but it's not really sealing very well. Over there is a reverse thread that is non-vented, but that makes sense because the motorcycle kind of leans to that side, and you don't want it to be vented or else it's going to kind of start leaking on your paint job and everything, and of course we know we don't want that. Alright, so my little contraption I've got right here, of course on the actual gas tank, the petcock on mine, and they kind of vary, is a 22 millimeter. So I went to TC Bros, I think it was, and I got this little adapter right here that goes from 22 millimeter to a actual 1/4 inch national pipe thread, and the rest of this you can get from your local hardware store. It's one of those that I went from a 1/4 inch to this little union to the T. Now the T you can eliminate because I kind of put the gauge on there. Like I said, I was wanting to pressurize it to about 10 or 15 pounds, leave it overnight and make sure that it was, still at the same pressure, but I can't get it to seal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to barely crack it enough to kind of have a little air, spray it around and see if I've got any bubbles, kind of like you do a tire. And if I don't, I believe I'm going to be good. So this T and the gauge you can actually, eliminate unless you can get your gas tank to pressurize and, not, be leaking. And so I got a actual air compressor fitting right here that you can use to, put air chucks and stuff like that on there. And then I've got on the inside of it, I've got one of your air chuck ends, another union, and another air chuck end. And it's one of those that I'm going to put the air hose right here, and then I'm going to, as you saw, plug it in right there, and then I can blow air into the actual gas tank. Alright, so as you can see, I've got the air hose hooked up. I've got it screwed into the petcock. It's one of those where this is my crossover. I could put a hose clamp on right there, but for right now it's going to be fine because I'm not putting very much PSI. And this one right here is already capped off whenever I bought it. So, and this is for your vent, and I've got to, take that off whenever I go to install it. But let me show you how much I'm actually going to crack the air compressor. So you can see, or you can hopefully hear, that it's barely on, and I need to cut it on just a little bit more because I don't feel any air. So now I feel a little bit of air coming out of that cap. So what I'm going to do is take my Simply Green, and just spray all around on my welds to make sure that it is not leaking. All right, so as you see, I've got the bottom side covered in Simply Green. I don't see any bubbles, kind of like you do on a tire, you know, when you got a leak on the tire. And just kind of reiterate, you can look at my gauge. I have no PSI on the gauge, so I know that I'm not putting too much pressure on the actual gas tank. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip it over and spray the top side and see if I get any bubbles. So of course right there where it's not sealing right here on the plug is where I've got some bubbles, but I'm okay with that because it's not on the very outside where they welded for the actual bung, I guess is what you want to call that. So, but everything else looks good. I don't see any kind of bubbles coming up. So I think that I am good to go on doing my modifications on my gas tank. So let's get back up to my other shop and I'll show you where I'm going to put the petcock. All right, so as you can see, I've got the gas tank on the bike, kind of mounted like it's supposed to be and everything. And it's one of those, as you can see, I've got 3 different petcocks that I've been playing with. I've got one that goes to the right, one that goes to the left, one that goes straight down. And I even have this one right here that I really like, but I can't really use it because this goes out a little too far. But so you can see I've been playing a lot with petcocks. And it's one of those that I'm going to use this one as an example, but over on this side where it normally goes, right down here on the bottom, it would mount right here. So I can't use one that goes to the right because I'll run into the coil pack. So I could move this back here and have enough room. But the problem is that this is really the only area I can kind of go between. And of course you have your coil wires that go to your spark plugs right here in the way as well. And so I don't have any room up there on top. And so this side is just not going to work. So one thing I forgot to mention when I was actually filming this, and I think it's very important to include as another reason why I don't want the actual fuel line to go through the jugs as you see on the screen, is that that area generates a lot of heat because these are air-cooled engines. And it's one of those where if the fuel line wasn't touching the fins of the jug, it'd be very close, and you know, the heat from the jugs or rubbing against the fins of the jug could possibly cause a hole in the fuel line. And because of the heat and possibly a spark from your coil pack above, just, I mean, you never know when that may happen. I mean, I don't want it to happen, but it could cause a fire. And so that's another reason why I don't want my fuel line to go between the jugs with it being that close. So let's go on over to the other side and continue on. So on this other side, you can see that the gas tank kind of narrows here in the back. And so right here in the back, I don't have any clearance, even with that straight one, to mount it because it's going to hit my actual rocker cover. And so really and truly, the only place I have is right here. And I want to use a straight one to come straight out and then follow down to where it actually mounts down here on the bottom. So that's kind of where my petcock is going to be going. I'm fixing to take the gas tank to somebody to weld it in there, and I'll be ready to start priming it, painting it, or do whatever what I can do on getting the gas tank to where I can use it. All right, so let's talk about the Sporty itself. It's one of those kind of showing you where the petcock is going. You've probably seen a few things. I don't know if you will remember when I first got the gas tank, I kind of mentioned something about wanting an S&S carburetor. Well, Saddle Tramp kind of twisted my arm by saying, hey, have you looked on eBay? and I hadn't looked on eBay. Well, I found a used S&S carburetor that just needs to be gone through, rebuilt, and it was a very reasonable price. It's one of those where Saddle Tramp had a few things that I was able to get from him, and I actually had to take one thing back because down there in my stash, when I got the handlebars, I actually was given a S&S backing plate that I didn't even realize. I guess because I didn't realize what it was at the time. But when I saw the one that I got from Saddle Tramp, I'm like, oh, I've already got one of these. And I was actually looking for something else. So I do have an S&S carburetor now. I've still got to rebuild it and everything. I also got my 6-inch risers, and let me show you that. So you can see the 6-inch risers that I've got actually clears my actual dash right here. And that's kind of good because, you know, before I was kind of hitting right in here, so I didn't really have all my turn radius. The handlebars, I'm going to have to kind of tilt down, which these were internal wiring handlebars, and they had holes right here, one on the other side, and then one here in the middle. And because of these levers that I've got and master cylinder and same thing on the other side, these are actually held on the bottom. These two screws right there, hopefully you may be able to see, actually clamp down, and they are clamping down and right in this little area where the hole was. So I had to go in and get these actually welded up so that, you know, I can have the handlebars tilted like they need to be, and also the levers where I can actually use the controls. Um, I do have a new throttle holder right there for the housing for the throttle. The other issue that I'm now kind of working on is going to be my clutch cable routing and my brake routing. Um, as you can see, you get those out of the way. As you can see, I don't, if I put this like it needs to be, I'm hitting the handlebar right there. And so I've actually got to talk to Barrett, I think it is, and I'm gonna have to get some different hoses custom made to where they kind of come out at a different angle than straight. And I want them kind of coming out possibly at maybe a 45. A 90, I think it's going to look too weird. So I'm going to try to get one that's a 45, but I still got to contact them. But so that's kind of the Sportster. That's where I'm at. All right, so hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully, you know, that tech tip there at the beginning, that's kind of the reason why I want to put that at the beginning, because, you know, that's kind of important on a gas tank. And so hopefully that helps some people out. And I just kind of want to give you a small update on where I'm at on the Sportster. It's one of those where I've just got a lot of stuff going on, and I'm not really spending as much time as I need to on working on the Sportster, but it is slowly coming together, and I'm slowly working through, you know, a few issues as I get them and everything. But if you enjoyed this video, please give me a big thumbs up and subscribe down below. And until the next video, see ya.